Hey everyone, I'm Mariana, and let's talk about Wicked. I honestly cannot believe this film adaptation is actually real and it's here. Well, the first half of it. Did you know that Wicked is actually a part 1? Because I didn't, and the marketing sure avoided indicating that, but we will get back to this later. Wicked is the first of the 2-part musical film adaptations of the very famous stage musical under the same name, which in turn is loosely based on the novel of the same name. This is essentially the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West. Set in Oz long before Dorothy's arrival, the movie follows Elphaba, a green-skinned girl with an extraordinary magical talent, and Glinda, a privileged and popular wannabe witch. The two meet at Shiz University, and though they couldn't be more different from each other, their unlikely friendship begins to blossom as they both set out to fulfill their destinies. Now, just so we're clear where I'm coming from, I am a huge fan of the musical Wicked. I've seen it live, it was an unforgettable experience. I have listened to it countless times since then, and I absolutely adore it. I'm also someone who tends to be more critical when it comes to the adaptations of things I love. So I'll be honest, I had pretty low expectations going into this. I didn't think the trailers looked amazing to begin with, but guys, this movie surprised me. There is so much I enjoyed about it and was impressed by. And while I do have some criticisms, to put it simply, I had fun. And I'm so happy to report that Wicked is a crowd pleaser musical fans can feast on. And speaking of feasting, before we go any further, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Cook Unity. Listen, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but the closer it gets to the holidays, the less time I have to cook, but I still want to enjoy great food. Well, enter Cook Unity, a service that will deliver award-winning chefs' meals directly to your door. I'm talking about restaurant-quality dishes delivered fresh, fully cooked, and ready to enjoy within minutes. All you need to do is heat them up. It's so easy. Now, it's comfort food season, so I have to shout out this delicious cavatappi chicken fresco in creamy garlic white wine sauce made by chef Fabio Viviani. The sauce really made this one for me, infusing this hearty dish with so much flavor. Also, Chef Ruben Garcia absolutely killed it with his pork loin with mushroom marsala sauce served with mushroom risotto. Can you tell I'm a big fan of mushrooms? And roasted vegetables. Definitely my favorite dish I've tried from Cook Unity so far. It's like you're eating out every night, but you're actually in the comfort of your own home, and the food is so much more affordable without compromising the quality. With literally hundreds of options to choose from, made from only the best ingredients, it's like setting out on a culinary adventure every time. Plus, the subscription is very flexible, making it easy to pause, skip meals, or cancel at any time, depending on what works for you. I think you guys would enjoy this one just as much as I do, and of course, I have a deal for you to try Cook Unity for yourself. Right now, go to cookunity.com/impression50 or click the link in the description and use the code impression50 to get 50% off your first order. And you will be on your way to enjoying fresh chef-made meals delivered right to your door. Again, that's cookunity.com/impression50 or click the link in the description and use my code. And thank you so much to Cook Unity for sponsoring this video. But let's get back to Wicked, and let me just gush here for a minute. I really appreciate them hiring people who can actually sing and dance. For some reason, Hollywood usually struggles with this in movie musicals, but they did it this time, guys. They did it. Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba is simply fantastic, really making the character her own while still respecting the source material. She is consistently great in everything I've seen her in, but you can really tell how much passion went into this role. From those personal, quiet, emotional moments where every micro expression on her face tells the story, to her big musical numbers that she belts out with her entire soul. Jonathan Bailey is excellent as Fiyero, this carefree prince who is actually hiding a big heart behind that facade, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in part 2. But I have to say, Ariana Grande as Glinda might have actually stolen the show for me, which I did not expect. I have never been a big Glinda fan. I had no idea that Ariana could act this well, and it's a complicated role to pull off. You have to be funny, you have to be cute and charming, while also being this selfish character who is essentially a popular mean girl. She's pretty much Regina George, who discovers real friendship and kindness, and eventually becomes a likable character. Grande nails every aspect of Glinda, including the singing, of course, but it's her ability to fully transform and embody this character that genuinely surprised me. Best Supporting Actress Ariana Grande? Maybe. We'll see. I would not be mad. It's this central friendship between Elphaba and Glinda that is the heart and soul of this story, and if at any point it rang false, this entire film would have fallen apart. The enemies to friends arc has to work for this to be successful. The chemistry has to be there, and it absolutely does work. It's such a joy to watch this friendship blossom on screen, and that aspect got me emotional all over again, just like seeing the musical for the first time did. I do also want to point out that the movie really hits the right tone and overall vibe of the stage musical. I was very curious if they were going to be able to pull this off, because it's a story that has to be simultaneously whimsical and heartfelt, balancing fairy tale magic with humor, but also with sincerity, and it has to be a full-on type of musical. It can't be ashamed of its own genre or too afraid to go for big emotions, and I'm happy to report Wicked does it all. I would say in general, the movie follows the musical pretty closely, which is great, but with a significant amount of additional dialogue. Let's get into the runtime and the part 1 of it all, because if I'm being honest, I would have rather watched a 3-hour-long epic version of the full story where they expanded on some things but left other things alone. For context, the show runs 2 hours and 45 minutes, including a 15-minute intermission. This movie, which is only half the story because it ends exactly where Act 1 of the show ends, is 2 hours and 41 minutes long. Was this necessary? Absolutely not. Sure, there are a few things that made sense to expand on, but not to this extent. There is no reason why they couldn't have made this part 1 into a solid 2-hour film if they were that determined to split it into 2 halves. Look, I expected some extra dialogue, but when we're taking the time to add more dialogue or something else in the middle of the songs, that bothered me, and I think padding them out like that was not only unnecessary, but also really messed with the momentum of those musical numbers. Also, considering that the movie is the first act of the musical, it was bizarre to see how much of the final hour of the film made it into the trailers. Honestly, if you've seen the trailers, you've seen the whole movie. I get it. Defying Gravity is a famous song and they want to sell that, but it's also literally the last scene in the film, and we see so much of that scene and things that are directly leading up to it in the trailers. The marketing was an overkill for Wicked, and it's particularly weird considering how popular the musical is and how great the cast is. They really did not need to oversell it the way they did. Let's talk about the visuals though, because things get complicated here. Does the movie look good? Yes, but it does not look great, especially considering how great it could have looked. On one hand, there are these beautiful sets and stunning costumes costumes. So many things are done practically, and there is so much work and detail that went into the production design of the movie. The behind the scenes footage really shows all of this off, and you can definitely tell in the film as well, but then you see the CGI and it just looks sad, especially when it comes to the backgrounds. You can immediately tell because it has this kind of soft and bland look to it. Now, obviously, it's necessary for some things. This is a movie with flying monkeys, and there are scenes where it does look good, but in general, it just looks off. When one scene you have these tactile looking sets with these different textures and details, and then the next scene, it's just a wash of CGI. And then there is the lighting, which quite a few people have been pointing out. It's not doing the movie any favors because it often makes things look washed out. Wicked should be the most colorful and vibrant movie of the year. I should not be sitting there wondering if someone turned the contrast down and why some scenes look borderline overexposed. Now, it's not all bad. Some of it does look amazing, and the amount of color behind the scenes keeps things from looking completely bland. I've also wondered if this was an attempt to give the movie some sort of whimsical vibe by making it look soft and hazy, but I think it just does a disservice to how rich and vibrant everything looks behind the scenes, to the fantastic production design and costumes. Is it going to bother the average moviegoer? I'm not sure, probably not as much. It still looks pretty, you can still see the sets and the costumes and plenty of pink and green, but it did bother me. There are more things I could nitpick at, like my personal preference for the camera and staging to be less busy in some scenes, particularly Dancing Through Life. I was really wishing they would just let Jonathan Bailey's performance speak for itself instead of making this scene look as chaotic as it did. I was also confused why the Ozdust Ballroom looked like some bland underground cave. That was a bizarre choice, especially considering that this is supposed to be one of the most emotional and powerful scenes of the entire movie. And I'm sorry, but Michelle Yeoh cannot sing at all. I would say in general, even though I love Michelle Yeoh, I don't think she brought much to her performance as Madame Morrible. This wasn't a character that really popped off the screen. And on one hand, it's fine, it's not a big role, but next to the rest of the cast, she just didn't stand out as much as we all know she can. Now, all that being said, Wicked is fun. It's a crowd pleaser, it's emotional, it's heartfelt, and it's definitely a movie you should see on the big screen. Most of the issues I have with this film are easily outweighed by the positives and by the overall experience of it. For me, this is the case of the final result being greater than the sum of its parts. And even though there are things I wished were done better, particularly when it comes to the visuals and the excessive runtime, I still got completely swept up in the story, rooting for the friendship at the heart of it. And I know I wasn't the only one. My audience was laughing, cheering, reacting, applauding. They were having a great time as well. The performances are fantastic. The iconic musical numbers work. Loathing, Popular, Defying Gravity, all of them are entertaining, memorable, and will be stuck in your head. There are some fun cameos and actors in smaller roles. And even though the visuals have room for improvement, the production design and costumes still shine through. The movie transports you to the magical land of Oz and sticks with you long after you leave the theater. It just put a huge smile on my face. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to affect me as much as it did. I am genuinely looking forward to part 2 now, and there's no doubt in my mind that Wicked will be
popular. You're gonna be popular.